So hey guys, today we're going to be talking about some of the strongest negates, or maybe even the strongest negates. Or well, yeah, the strongest negates in Yu-Gi-Oh that I know of. So I mean, technically, we could argue something like preventing activation to begin with. So there are cards that prevent activation, so you can't do anything. Those are pretty brutal, and also cards that automatically negate anything to activate, like Kali Yuga, I suppose. But today we're going to focus on what I might refer to as actual negates, like negates you do against your opponent's activating card, I suppose. And that would be mostly the whole effect of the card. So, yeah, one of the strongest negates, I think, in the game right now would probably be, well, not necessarily always usable, but we have Angelica's Angelic Ring. Equip only to a monster you control, equipped with an equip card. You can only control one Angelica's Angelic Ring. Each turn, negate the effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves. Once per turn, while this card is equipped to a monster, you can gain 500 life points, then destroy this card. And if you do, your opponent cannot target the monster this card was equipped to with card effects while it is face up in the monster zone. So essentially, the important thing is that, well, you have two effects on Angelic Ring. So first is, well, the negate effect. Secondly, you have this you can't target me effect, which is just not that great. But this effect here is pretty cracked. So each turn, negate the effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves. So this effect is continuous, meaning that whenever your opponent is able to successfully activate their first spell card, then this would activate Angelic Ring effect to negate. There are like some downsides to this, I suppose. So first off, if your negate is specifically to negate effect, then it overlaps with Angelic Ring, so you could double negate, which is kind of goofy. But yeah, if you were to negate activation, that would prevent Angelic Ring from being able to attempt to negate a card, which is why this pairs really well with Charles. But also because this does not technically start a chain, this is able to negate pretty much any spell, right? So that includes Super Poly, or Dark Ruler No More, Forbidden Droplet. Even if you send Spell Trap and Monster, Angelic Ring can negate all of those cards, right? Which is pretty unique, I suppose. Being able to negate unrespondable cards. So that's the power of Angelic Ring right there. Mostly it's just being able to negate unrespondable cards. But I mean, because of how this works, it says as well, each turn negate the effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves. So if I want to play around the Angelic Ring, it's my choice as the opponent for the most part, unless you're playing with Infernoble Knights, right? And you have Charles to negate spell traps. Angelic Ring, we can play around this by going, for example, Chain 1 Rhoda, Chain 2 Called By. And then the Called By would be the card that's negated by Angelic Ring because that's the first effect activating. Despite being Chain Link 2, which is a little bit confusing to think about, but that's how it works. So Angelic Ring, I mean, kind of possible to play around a little bit, so it's like, I guess, goodn't. And also, it's not very effective against certain continuous effects, which is also not great. So, for example, if I were to activate Dimensional Fissure, you would attempt to negate Fissure despite it not really doing anything in particular. And this would apply to like any continuous spell, just activating, or field spell. So, like, for example, activate Zombie World, activate Sogen, and then Angelic Ring would also attempt to negate that despite the card technically not having anything to really negate. Angelic Ring will still attempt to do so. So the strictly upgrade to this would be, I guess, this card here. We have, well, I think one of the best forms of interaction in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, but I mean, Uh, I don't think any other card. Well, actually, there should be only one other card that does something similar. So the fact here says, once per turn while this card is equipped to a monster, you negate a monster effect activated on your opponent's field. So notice right here, there is a semicolon here. So that implies that this starts a chain here. So you target for cost and then equip as effect here. And there is no colon here, and same applies to, I guess, Angelic Ring. And you can see the colon here, problem solving card text, baby. And then the this card here doesn't start a chain on this, and that includes Pegasus Twin Saber. But Pegasus Twin Saber does not have the same restriction. So this says specifically just that you can negate a monster effect activated on your opponent's field. What does this mean? Well, this means that on resolution of a chain at any point in time in that chain, you can decide, I want to negate that monster effect that activated on the field specifically. So a card effect that activated on the field, that would include, like, if you tribute for cost, it just has to be activated on the field, not in hand, graveyard, banished, or whatever, specifically on the field. But if we look past that little thing, you can't chain block Pegasus Twin Saber. You can't really do much about Pegasus Twin Saber. And this is just a very brutal and powerful negate, and you can even change your mind during the resolution if your opponent was withholding information. So, for example, sometimes your opponent might have something like, I don't know, let's say a Called by the Grave or Ash Blossom Joe Spring. So if your opponent has something like that, you Pegasus Twin Saber to negate. So let's assume we have Chainlink 1, a card that's performing a search, and then we can Chainlink 2, something to attempt to negate that, and then Pegasus Twin Saber without even chaining to being able to chain to like a Called by the Grave. So maybe we go Chainlink 1 search, Chainlink 2 Ash, Chainlink 3 Called by, we can Chainlink 4 to negate that monster. Whereas if we had specifically a monster negate, we would not be able to chain to this to negate Chainlink 1. And that would be just pretty good, I suppose. That's one way to look at it. So yeah, we have that, and then the last card I know of that is somewhat like that. I don't remember exactly what card it is, but I believe it was one of the Sacred Beast cards. So that would be like Opening of the Spirit Gates. So these cards. I believe the card in question specifically has something to do with one of these three guys, so we'll have to kind of look for a bit. I think it was Cerulean Skyfire, right? We'll see. Let's see. Once per turn, while you control an attack position, Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder, you can negate any spell trap effect activated by your opponent. Then change one Haman, Lord of Striking Thunder you control to defense position. I believe it was this card, right? Once per turn, negate any spell trap effect activated by your opponent. So same kind of deal as, I guess, the Pegasus Twin Saber, but this is for spells and traps. That's essentially all this is. But yeah, if you're able to, I guess, well, meet the conditions of this card. I mean, meeting the conditions is a little bit rough for all of these cards, just somewhat rough. I guess it would be problematic if such powerful negates were easily splashable, but I think out of the three, the easiest one to splash was probably Pegasus, requiring you only to technically need to make a rank 4 and run some Garnets. Aside from that, fairly easy to make. I don't think, well, the other two are nearly as splashable, probably requiring like Isolde to do the Angelic Ring stuff, and also with the Cerulean Skyfire needing to summon Ammon. And yeah. Either way, though, Cerulean Skyfire is able to negate any spell trap effect activated by your opponent on resolution, which is pretty interesting. You very rarely see, I guess, negates kind of working like this. I guess probably because they're busted, but essentially with most negates, you would be going like uh, Chainlink 1 activating effect, and then you would have Chainlink 2 negate that effect, and you would have to really ponder, do I want to negate this? And then your opponent could potentially activate something else in response. But this kind of breaks the typical, I guess, gameplay loop that you might be used to seeing, which is pretty interesting in that regard, but also that, yeah, imagine if we suddenly just got like 10, 20 cards that just negated like this, it would just power creep and rail everything. One of the things that's really powerful about this type of effect is that it's harder to make opportunities to punish your opponents for mistakes with these cards. So yeah, the only thing that you could really do is to just bait out the negate in a short chain, I suppose. Like maybe activate Rhoda. Hope they Cerulean Skyfire negate that and not my super polymerization that I also have in hand, which I think is not very likely. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.